Last time we talked about this character, it went hard into her rebellious nature and her romance with Patty. Today, let's look at how she feels about her calling in life. Blair Campbell, Element Nature, Zodiac Aries, April 6th, Blood Type B, age 16. For a while there, a lot of people thought Blair was a romantic rival between Patty and Tam, focusing on Tam, but no. Blair has always been interested in Patty since the beginning of the show, as some of the extended scenes of To Catch a Kiss will show. The full comic for that is now available on our Patreon page. Blair's calling in life, so she says, is to be a pirate. And right away, I know a lot of people are picturing things like Pirates of the Caribbean, Assassin's Creed Black Flag, even Captain Hook. But this isn't the era of Edward Teach, Mary Read, and Anne Bonny. And we're still a long way off from Calico Jack or Bartholomew Roberts. I say all these names because these are some of the most famous pirates in history that all lived and died during the golden age of piracy of the Caribbean Americas. The real Pirates of the Caribbean. But the golden age of piracy was a period of rampant maritime robbery heavily concentrated in the Caribbean, North America, Eastern Seaboard, and Indian Ocean. It was fueled by the rise in transatlantic trade, the availability of thousands of unemployed sailors to the War of the Spanish Succession, and a lucrative colonial smuggling network. This period of about 80 years, between 1650 and 1730, is where pop culture gets the majority of their pirate imagery from, hats and coats to weapons and pistols, walking the plank, rum, and sea shanties. Sea shanties weren't actually a thing like that. Not until the 19th century, where they originated as synchronized work songs aboard merchant sailing vessels. These shanties merged with rich folk traditions of European sailors, especially the British, Scottish, and Irish, with call and response work songs of African Americans and Afro-Caribbean slave laborers. Call and response songs are a big part of African culture, and it works like this. A designated person, usually in this case called the shantyman, leads the song in the matching rhythm of the physical labor required. And then the chorus, with the rest of the crew, sing it back. Let's try it together. If I sing, "Oh, I thought I heard the old men say, for tomorrow you will get your pay." See how that worked? Did you get Lever, Johnny Lever? Anyway, even if these songs weren't a part of the golden age of piracy, they're pretty cool and inarguably one of the best things about pirate stories in general. For pirates in the 12 and 1300s, there weren't a lot of organized crews sailing under black flags. Instead, the distinction of piracy was largely determined by courts. Maritime trade in and around the British Isles were largely mercantile ships, sailing back and forth across established routes to various ports. There would be, on occasion, disagreements, disputes, robberies, and so largely on the basis of market competition. Therefore, who was a pirate and who was a merchant depended entirely on the court. Let's say, for instance, you are running a merchant ship between Ireland and the Isle of Man. A rival company from Britain is seen along your trade route, so you decide to take some muscle and drive off the competition. If the two of you went to court and you could rightly prove that your competitor's actions had a negative impact on your business, your attack on their ship might be seen as justified. Otherwise, you'd probably be labeled a pirate, especially if you stole anything. If Blair really wanted to be a pirate, what she's most likely talking about is having a ship, trading as a merchant, and potentially a naval arm of Alden itself, but also participating in coastal raids that were quick and almost Viking-like in nature. And all taking place in the Irish Sea. The Irish Sea was particularly difficult to police, and modern historians frequently describe it as one of medieval Europe's most contested maritime zones. English, Welsh, Irish, Scottish, and Manx sailors all competed in this zone, and that's also because it's connected to the most ports, therefore was the most lucrative. Typical weaponry of pirates during this time included spears, swords, axes, falchions, daggers, crossbows, and bows. Because boarding heavily relied on hand-to-hand combat, it's very likely that Blair knows how to get up close and personal if she needs to. And keep in mind, this is all before they would have had the use of the magnetic compass. So she's also studying maps, learning coastal landmarks, how the tides affect the shore, and what the stars do. One thing you can definitely be sure of Blair: put her out on a night in a clear sky, and her head is in the stars more than anyone else around her. And I can respect that. Damn, Blair, you would have loved space travel. Some other locations that were really notorious for pirates during this time include the English Channel. Easily, the most heavy commercial traffic came through here. Not just from England, but Normandy, Gascony, and Flanders passed through consistently. Not to mention that growing trade in the Bristol Channel also made it an attractive choice. Not only was the Irish Sea heavily contested, this made the jurisdiction weak as regions constantly overlapped. This area also had many convenient islands with sheltered anchorages that made it easy to hide and conduct business outside of the King's reach. In western Scotland, the Hebrides and nearby waters contained countless inlets that were useful for concealment as well. As you can imagine, these were areas where goods were stored and traded, commonly things like wool, cloth, wine, salt, grain, hides, wax, fish, timber, and iron. English wool, surprisingly, was considered particularly valuable. The incentive here, especially for merchants, was that knocking over a ship and taking the cargo could equal out to multiple years' worth of income. Blair is definitely opting for the make our village as rich as possible as fast as possible option. Takes all types, and I kinda like the way she thinks. One thing they didn't seem to deal in is slaves. Sure, crew members of these captured ships were still robbed, potentially imprisoned, maybe even ransomed, but only occasionally was murder on the table. And things like wiping out entire crew were so infrequent compared to popular fiction. Don't get me wrong, there was still violence. They weren't armed for nothing, but ransom was often way more profitable. Ships also differ greatly compared to what some might be used to seeing. The three most common were the cog, the dominant ship of the northern European merchants. These had a single mast, square sail, high sides, and a broad cargo hold. Early pirates also used small coastal craft, like fishing boats, small sailing vessels, and local transport ships, as these could easily hide and look like regular, legitimate traffic. The difference between taking a box truck to a heist or a four-door sedan. In western Scotland, Ireland, and the Isles, there was even an importance placed on Norse Gaelic-influenced longboats, complete with oars. This was because these types of ships could move regardless of the wind, could enter shallow waters, and escape more easily. These were really good ambush vessels that could be hidden until they were ready to be used, and sprung out of nowhere on less suspecting slower ships. For Blair's outfit, I wanted to include some Celtic knot designs, as these were common for the area and the time. Celtic knot symbology has been used for centuries, largely in areas of Scotland, Ireland, and Wales, as a form of art. Now, one thing about Celtic art of the time, it wasn't ever very precise. So different art historians have different interpretations of what it all means. In recent years, many of these same historians have started calling Celtic art Latin art, named after the site in Switzerland. During the Late Bronze Age, around 1200 BCE to the early Iron Age, 600 BCE, Celts dominated much of Europe, from what is now France, Italy, Switzerland, Germany, Poland, and even Serbia. We can find similar knotted patterns on stone carvings at important sites like the tri-spiral carved into the stone at UNESCO World Heritage Site in Newgrange, located in Meath, Ireland. These carvings were thought to convey magical protection, included in jewelry and other adornments like cloth and corded belts like what Blair is using. Some common interpretations of these designs represent the endless cycle of life and death, as well as rebirth, and interconnections of all things in the natural world. For the Irish specifically, Celtic knots were associated with the gods and goddesses of ancient culture, the Tuatha De Danann and Tirnanock. Consider this, even the name Ireland relates to the Triskel knot of 3 interlocking spirals that represents the triple goddess Banba, Folda, and Eiru. The latter of the 3 is where Ireland takes its name from. The specific design on Blair's belt is called the sailor's knot. The wide and long shape suggests origins with the ropes that kept ships afloat in the rough northern seas. Many of the Tuatha were known as seafaring warriors, but like many knot shapes, it also signifies concepts such as love and personal strength that are the center to her character. Thank you everyone for your continued support, and I look forward to giving you even more in the future. Our community keeps expanding with authentic viewers and subscribers that tune in every week excited for the next installment. Whether that's listening to my world-building rants or tuning in for a full episode, you're the ones that keep this channel afloat against an unforgiving algorithm that keeps trying to douse the flame. That's the meaning of many a mickle max a muckle, many smaller things making a big thing. And now, a shout out to our patrons and channel members.
Plebe 64 Potato,
Mr. Lobo King 8778,
P64P,
Regios 001,
Jack Plays K Plays,
Maria Elsa 6363,
Moose Now,
El Dragon Biano 3742,
Jack McLeod,
Persephoroth,
Josh is Mary,
Runaway Train 2502,
EA Shadow Gamer,
Sigma LaFlare,
Crochet Whimsy 413,
Anubian the 1335,
Angels Art and Gaming,
Aisha Kashif,
Pluve 81,
Aegis Knight,
7-Star Sanctuary,
and Chained Furry,
T. Mitchell Carr,
MB Durg Wraith,
Emily Masternardi,
Heinrich 28,
Shadow Fox,
Arya Gamari,
Charles Tam,
Jace Moreland,
Pammy Poo,
and Lunder Lumen.